I'm going to tell everybody in school, if you want to see my dad on YouTube, to say on it, the tape never lies. Go shit in the hat.
Yes.
For Lord Cars.
Hear ye, hear ye. Man to the people.
You know it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive.
Analytical preparation, that's what Cars is given. Cars don't discriminate, teaching the men and women. Each and every week, there's nerd to get your focus. Never manipulating stats, law, cars and hocus pocus. Cars Keys, they're never lost. Check your source, never gonna find a better scouting report. Cars going live with the smartest man, my bestie. Deciphering holes on the defense like Getsy. New show, uniforms, orange with the dark sea. Tape never lies, patrons, this is Cars
You know
Keys.
it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. We gotta break down tape like detectives. No hot takes, just real football perspectives. The Bears nerd dropping science on his terms. TTNL giving Bears press like a perm. Other networks just off with the heads. Stats plus film equals football cred. Analysis like Data Ted tries to shred. McCaskey's letting me cake, we keep the 100 crew fed. Cars Keys, let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet.
Hey, it's Cars Keys Season 2, Episode 31. We're back. We're not napping yet, are we, Cars? Even though we want to. What's up, everybody? Thursday night. We're back. Hope everybody had a good, enjoyable holiday. The Bears did their job, kinda. They won, right? I don't know how excited anybody is about it, but let's get over to our guy here. Let's bring out Maisie's dad. There he is.
That is officially my title. Now I'm not known by anything other than Aubrey and Maisie's father. So I'll be fine with it. No, I spent my whole life as my, being called Marty's son. So just, I don't really need a name. It's not that important.
That's the way it works. We could be called much worse, right?
I have been. Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll just
my
wait
first
till the
marriage
YouTube.
was
We'll
good
just
for
wait
it.
till the YouTube comments tomorrow.
I'm sure it'll be just as even keeled and fair and balanced as they always are.
Yeah. Speaking of fair and balanced, who's this guy?
It's always good when my son shows up again. I've missed him so.
He texted me the other day and he goes, "You know what? I'm not afraid of the fucking sun in Florida. It's not going to burn my skin." That's what he told me. So,
I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Cars. Chicago Bears beat the Minnesota Vikings 12-10, and everything is well in Chicago Bears land, right?
I mean, anytime you could be the only team to win a game this year without scoring a touchdown, I mean, clearly you are dominating in ways that no one has ever expected.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I said last night on Keeping It 100, in all of my years watching Bears football. And there's been the one thing that the Bears are good at are crazy games. There's been insane wins. Like, how did they do that? Lots and lots of losses. Like, how did you do that? But this win felt like a loss to me. It came with very, very little excitement. I know the defense played well, and you want to see the young guys maintain and keep with their growth. But it's, how did you feel afterwards? Did you have, you know what I mean? We're caught in such a odd position moving forward right now.
Well, I think if you remember during that text, the vaunted Ryan Cox and Shane text chain, I was like, Minnesota's going to score here, and we're going to end up losing this game 10-9. And especially with the way that drive started, I was like, yep, 100%. Here we go. The only positive I took about it was, one, seeing Ryan Poles in the press box clearly saying we're just running the same thing over and over again. And the way that the media rightfully ripped us for the game plan. Like, that was the only positive out of it. It didn't really hurt our draft position, right? But I don't know. I don't think we learned a single thing offensively in that game, other than, like, our offensive line is pretty darn good minus the center position, right? Like, we are a center away from being an elite offensive line. And even that didn't make a difference because, good Lord, we're going to run 3 screens back to back to back. I just don't get it.
I got a copy of the Westwood One radio feed, and I was told that Kurt Warner was eviscerating Luke Getsy and the Chicago Bears game plan, and just like openly laughing on air, and like, well, what are we going to see? 3rd and 12. What do you think we're going to see here? So, oh, yep, that's right. There's another screen pass. So it's,
it was not, and someone had mentioned it, and it made me go back and rewind and watch that Tampa Bay game, because we did the same thing. If we play a defense that is very aggressive, we go screen crazy, and it makes absolutely no sense. Everything is outside. One of the things we always hit on with Justin is, where's the middle? Most of that blitzing was coming from where guys should have been in the middle of the field. And we had the one slant to Mooney that we converted on a 3rd down for, but the rest of the time it was non-existent. And so you just keep going. How about the fact that our run game is somehow worse now? Like, none of it adds up anymore. I just don't understand.
And you see Minnesota sell out and bring everybody, and I'm just sitting here watching the game, and just on the TV feed, Cars, a simple slant pass is a house call, and 3rd and 2, nope, we're screen, and Mooney whiffs and Tanyan whiffs on their blocks, and it's just like, what are we doing? I understand if they're going to bring the pressure, that can be your blitz killer to get them to back off, but over and over and over again, not even to run anything off of it. That's the thing, is to even fake the screen and then say, oh, we caught him. You went a whole game, like you said, got a W, and you learned nothing other than Luke Getsy is a stubborn asshole.
And that's, I tweeted about it the other day. If you take out the 2 Bears games, Minnesota is the team that has been beat the most by passes 20 yards or more. In the other 10 games, they'd given up 51 plays through the air of 20 yards or more. Guess what? In the 2 Bears games, so that's 5 a game, right? 5 a game. In 2 games versus the Bears, we've had a total of 4. So think about that. Other teams are just punishing them for this all day.
Yeah.
And we're not. And to be completely honest, I don't know how you feel, but we won that game because for whatever reason, Flores took his foot off the pedal like so many defensive coordinators do and got too scared and got too afraid and went conservative. And that's the only reason we won that game.
And he's the ultimate guy that, and listen, I was never a big Jim Schwartz fan as a head coach. I would take him as a defensive coordinator in a heartbeat. Jim Johnson, who used to be with Philly, these guys that believe in, I'm going to dictate the game with the pressure, the relentless pressure that I bring every single, if it's 3rd and 1, if it's 3rd and 18, I am going to bring pressure. That's always been the way that I am. Sitting back, Cars, and we've seen it. We saw what happened in Detroit. It almost happened again. And like you said with Flores, I was shocked. And listen, and this isn't, I'm not putting Justin Fields down here. I'm just talking about the Chicago Bears fan base and the beat writers. I have a problem with saying, oh my God, that was a step that we took on that 3rd down pass because our quarterback stepped up in the pocket, delivered a 36-yard pass to a wide receiver that was wide open. Cars, we see that in every level of football every single week. But we're going to praise that and compliment that here. That's what we should be seeing all the time. And we don't hear it's the bar is so low in Chicago. We're praising a 3rd down completion to set up a game-winning field goal where you win 12-10. It's
and just take it a step further because you're absolutely right. We had seen this great progress last week in Detroit, right? Where you can really argue you saw a lot more from Justin in that game. And so this would be a game that you want to build on that. But like everything else in the Flus era, we can't do things back to back. The defense played like shit against Detroit. It played better this week. Our offense played better against Detroit. It played like shit this week. We can never line these things up. We can never do them the same because all of a sudden we get like a little bit of good press clippings and all of a sudden we're like, we've arrived. We've been telling you, here it comes. And you just don't see it. Yeah, was it great that he made that throw? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Do we want to ignore the two or three other in the middle of the field that he completely missed and should have thrown? We shouldn't. But
Cars, literally the down, and I'm stealing this from Josh Lucas, but he's 100% correct. The 2nd down play and the 3rd down play, he totally misses Tyler Scott because he was a hot mess in the pocket. He just looked nervous. He looked out of sorts. And this is what Josh Lucas, if you guys didn't listen to us talk about it last night, this is what Josh Lucas talked about. This is the big concern. You had 2 completely opposite ends of the spectrum on 2 consecutive downs. And that has been more of the norm than anything. And
but that's the problem because you're right, because what have we learned this year? That nothing. The highs with Justin are still really high. The lows with Justin are still really low. And I think, if I summarize this, it's kind of, I think the best way I could do a comparison right now is what has all the talk been on radio this last week has been, well, because the defense is playing better, Flus is going to keep his job and the staff is going to come back. And it's what took so long? Why is this happening? Like, why isn't it week to week? Why are we going to Detroit put up 2 more yards than us in half the time last week. And we're going to gloss over that because we beat a Josh Dobbs Minnesota Vikings team this week. Like, Justin has not taken a step. He has not taken a step forward. He has not taken a step back. He is still the same guy where you look at a play, and I hate to invoke it. It's similar to Mitch. You see the good, and everyone's like, see, that's who he is. And then you see the bad, and the other people who don't like him are like, see, that's who he is. There hasn't been this mass growth, this massive improvement.
Right.
He's the same guy. The Bears are the same team. We're just so desperate that we latch on to a little bit of good news to make it.
Happens all the time. And I was talking to my son about this as we were coming home from his basketball practice just a few minutes ago. We're talking about the Bears. And he's like, what would you do if the Bears won out? And I said, you want to know what the funny thing is? I was just thinking about that. Let's just say the Bears win out. Still, if they won out, Cars, in 2 years, the best quarterback that they've beaten would have been Jared Goff in 2 seasons.
Yeah, because, I mean, you look at that end of season stuff.
But this is the thing, and I understand. Yes, we have seen a big difference in play with the defense. We've seen growth from Gervon Dexter, and this is where you have to give Flus credit with these guys. We've seen growth from Dexter. We've seen growth even from Pickens, not quite as much. We've seen growth from Tyreek Stevenson, guys like that. But the Bears have not beat even a middle of the road quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's just that, come on, man. Not even one. And when they play the legit quarterbacks, how did they look against the Chargers?
Not good. Well, but you could this carries on, right? Jalen Johnson's interceptions this year have come against Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell, and Josh Dobbs. Right? Like, and he dropped a pick 6 in Detroit, and he dropped one this last week against Minnesota. And there's just no consistency. So even when the goods are really good, it's not week to week. Like, I know you're going to be along with me where we're going to ride this high as a staff, and we're going to get our fucking heads stomped against Detroit next week because we're going to be like, see, we've arrived, and it's what we have done the entire time. And it's so frustrating. It's so depressing. I sat down today and rewatched so much of that game and watched that offensive of play calling, and you just keep going back and go.
It just makes.
We learned sense. We won a game, and we learned nothing that we needed to learn.
No,
and that is where this season is the complete worst case scenario, because we've learned nothing, and the people who say we should keep Justin aren't wrong. The people who say we shouldn't keep Justin aren't wrong either. There's enough evidence on both of those sides to be there, and we're gonna talk about it today. So I'll be probably making some enemies on it, but it's a massive concern. And I think one thing that everybody has to be aware of is the cards are massively stacked against Justin Fields at this point, because if he goes out and he plays well the last 6 games, it's a 6-game streak, which is better than he's really had, but you're still talking about streaks. And, it's we have these issues where you don't know where it's Getsy, but you know that he's negatively impacting. You know that it's not just Justin, but you know there are plays that he's negatively impacting. And you would have liked to see a scenario where we fired Getsy just to see if a different play caller could unlock something or find something, right? Like, who was it in Jacksonville when it happened with Blake Bortles for that year where he kind of
Right.
popped off and you're like, okay, maybe there is something here.
Oh,
But
Jesus, you're gonna get Shuri all crazy. She's in the chat talking about him.
oh boy. But you know, I'm not saying we're the same player, but we are where the New York Giants were last year with Daniel Jones, where we didn't really learn a whole lot. New York won games because of their run game and decided to pay a guy $45 million a year who threw 15 touchdowns in a season, right? Just asinine numbers. That's sort of where we are. Like he might get up to 20 this year if we have a little bit of a hot streak, but what have we learned? How do you go into this and do anything? I just
the biggest thing, and I don't want to get too far away from you bringing up your stuff here, but and I know that Caleb, unfortunately, Caleb Williams is just as much of a divisive topic as Justin Fields is when it comes to Chicago Bears fans. And I know what I see in that. I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I know what I see in the talent of Caleb Williams. But, Cars, you and I talked about this. I talked about this with Phil. Talked about it last night. My concerns with Caleb Williams aren't talent related.
Yeah.
It's
leadership and
leadership. Can he lead? Can he lead a locker room? Can he just be a leader? Those are the things that I do not worry about with Justin.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the way they reacted in the locker room right after the game, how he stood up and apologized for the fumbles. Massive, right? Like that's not turn your TVs off. We don't want to hear the negative. You're right. He's really good.
Yeah, and I'm not going to obviously get the opportunity to sit down with Caleb Williams to find out who he is, but this is where Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham really have to make their money, because listen, it's easy to see the talent. That's not the hard part. It's finding out about what's in here. Do you need football in your life? Can you not breathe without it?
Yeah.
That's what you need to find out about Caleb Williams. It's not the talent on the field. And I find myself more and more saying, or going back to Ryan Poles saying, hey, listen, we're going to build this the correct way. And the correct way is the slow way. And you end up taking a lot of bullets, along the way, because it's a slower process. There's going to be a team, if you're lucky enough to finish with the first overall pick, there's going to be not one, not two, not three, but 5, 6, 7, 8 absolutely desperate teams that want to move up to take him.
Oh, there's no doubt, right? You're talking Atlanta, you're talking New England, potentially Arizona. You're talking probably about the New York Giants at this point. They have to be in play. The New York Jets would have to be in play because they're only going to have a year or two of Rodgers, and that offensive line is terrible. Like, you've got a lot of different teams that would be trying to line up for it. But I think the best comp, though, sorry, just real quickly, I think the best comp, though, is Kyler Murray, right? Like, that is the one question Arizona is still trying to figure out about Kyler Murray. Does he love it? Is he going to be dedicated enough?
Does he need it? Yeah.
Does he need it? sounds like he has always needed Call of Duty more, but that's where you are. That's a big concern.
But if your fallback plan is to, and this is the anti Justin Fields people, listen, he's under contract for 2024. So what is it? May 4th, you have to decide on the 5th-year option.
You've not seen enough to make that decision.
Oh, no. But I'm saying it's also a 1-year commitment. It's not a 5-year commitment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you can stretch this out with a full war chest of draft picks and assets moving forward, with a big draft day trade for number 1, I always go back to where Ryan Poles came from in Kansas City. They had Alex Smith, where he did good, but they never wanted, you know what I mean? They didn't want to commit to him moving forward. So it was like they were always looking for the next. They went from 27 to 10 when they made the move for Mahomes. If you can keep on supplementing your team with premium assets while Justin is here and you're still looking for your quarterback, I'm not so sure that that's not the correct pathway.
So again, this is one of those hard things where I can't agree or disagree.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that just speaks to really the lost season that this is, because
But just real quick, I think what under that pathway is, if I have any question in my mind about leadership with Caleb Williams, then I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and some of the stuff this year came out as like almost hitman articles on him and the shots, but some of it's warranted. Like this is just a weird all around season, and I think it's completely fitting that the 2 years that the Bears will have the number 1 pick, or arguably have the number 1 pick, have been the 2 years with the biggest question marks at the quarterback position, which is the one position you want to draft, right? And I think it kind of just starts to feel like this, God, why is it always us? Why is it whenever it's our turn to maybe find that guy or get that guy, that guy falls apart? I think this is an interesting college football year. And again, it's not like Caleb played terrible, but he just didn't play to the same level that he played at the previous year, which is always difficult. They lost a lot of games, but that USC team is not as talented as they have been in years past.
Defense is abysmal.
The defense is abysmal. The offensive line is not the greatest group of offensive linemen. Like there's all of these things. And, for all you Michigan cheater fans, all you Michigan fans out there, I understand you're enjoying it.
Cherie's getting the shit kicked out of her tonight.
I just love this. Once I made the Blake Bortles thing, I was just going to go ahead and keep going down that route. But I think, Shane, the other part of this is going to be, well, we'll figure out what staff is going to be here. Because if you're keeping the same staff, I think you have to keep Justin.
That's Cars. Let's just say that Caleb Williams blows you away, and you're like, all right, Caleb Williams is going to be the future of the Chicago Bears. So let's just say they solidify that, and it's with this staff, that scares the hell out of me.
I mean, it's a mess either way. And again, the depressing part about this season is that it is such a lost season. We have learned so much about Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Dexter, Darnell Wright, Tevin Jenkins, right? Like Tevin Jenkins has played snaps, all of them, for 8
I hate to even bring it up, and I gotta give the kid credit, because I've I've always loved the talent, but we all knew that he needed to stay healthy. And when he went out last week,
we
I'm
were
like, here
here
we
it is.
go. Here we go. This is what it is. But to his credit, he came out there and quite honestly, Cars, if he finishes out the season, he's got to take some of your cap space.
I mean, you're talking about the Zach Martin level guard play that you're getting out of Tevin Jenkins. And Zach Martin has been kind of that guy, right? I forget the guy, and names are escaping me, that was in Baltimore for so long. That was kind of that road grader guard type where you're just like, that's what he's become. So you're absolutely right. I think Jalen is going to earn that money too.
Let me ask you this, Cars. So let's just say that
thank you, Ryan Cox, Marshall Yonda. That's right.
Yep. Let's say that Ryan Poles has questions about the leadership of Caleb Williams that concern him. So he decides to sell the pick off to the highest bidder to gain assets. Yeah. So that means that Justin Fields is going to be here. They pick up the 5th-year option. So you have him for the next 2 years. And what is it? 25 million, I believe, is the
25 would
year.
Be for the 5th year. Yep.
What's the downside to that?
If Justin, the biggest downside just simply becomes, if Justin's not the guy, when are you going to be in this position to find that guy?
But that's why my point is you can make a move whenever. If there's a quarterback there, it's easier, yes, while you're here. But if you're gaining assets and you're building up your team, let's just say it's in 2 years, a quarterback comes out that they say, all right, this is who we have to have, and you're drafting 19th or 18th.
There's a big difference, though. Like, to use Mahomes is a bit of an outlier because he was.
I get it. Yeah.
You got to look at what Josh Allen. You're going to have to get to top 5, and one of the perfect NFL overreactions has been because of where Mahomes went. Now the value for quarterbacks has skyrocketed, and it's gone so high. So it does. I think the bigger concern is you are never going to be in this space where it's going to be as easy to get a quarterback again. You're right. You're going to have to stockpile assets, and then you're going to have to give up a whole bunch of them to get back in.
That was probably a shitty way to phrase my question. Where is there more downside? Maintaining with Justin Fields for the next 2 years and selling off the first overall pick for more assets, or drafting Caleb Williams number 1 overall? That's I'm not so sure there's not more downside with drafting the quarterback.
If I hadn't done the stuff that I've been doing and looking at the research of Justin becoming the guy and how rare that would be at this moment.
Yeah.
Because I think go back 4 years, Shane, and we're in this position with Mitch Trubisky. And if the situation was the same, like what we wanted to do. And again, the reason that we're able to go get Justin Fields was because he fell to 11, right? And it made it simpler. I think the downside is just you're probably 2 years away from having to start all over, and all that talent, as good as it is, it kind of makes you like our old Chicago Bulls, where it keeps you middle of the pack, not good enough to make a dent. Yes. And we've been there for so long, right? The 7-9 to 9-7 Lovie Smith era Bears, right? Like that is where we would be, and that's the downside. At some point, you've got to take a risk, and the only time we've ever massively swung the bat has been for Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Right? Like the only time we've really done that. But it's really tricky right now, Shane, because
I
don't
get it.
Yeah. We'll talk about it because I think it's the nightmare fuel is like everyone that sits down and thinks like it's stupid to do this, he's going to be something. I'll show you how rare it is that he's going to become something. And you're going to like, you need to understand how much this has changed. Like Alex Smith turning into a player all those years down the line was great, but that was before the salary, the slotted draft position. We're going to talk about what it looks like since then, and it's less good. But I don't think I guess the cheap way to answer your question, Shane, is if Luke Getsy is your offense coordinator and staying, it doesn't fucking matter, right? It just doesn't. Either way, it doesn't. If you're not willing to make wholesale changes, it doesn't mean thing. It doesn't mean a thing. But you're really sitting down to look at like I think you have to swing the bat.
Yeah, and I mean I think this is the thing, like you said.
But what window? Like we're not even in playoff contention. So like what are we like?
But if
the window for us would be to be potentially in playoff contention.
But if they had beat Detroit and beat Denver, 2 games that they easily could have been, they could have been in playoff contention right now this year. You know what I mean? Yeah, and if they had a competent advocate, yes. If they had a competent coach, this is so Chicago. It's so Chicago.
But let's look at Denver. Yeah, Luke Getsy was a problem. Who was the other biggest problem that second half of the game? Yeah. Number 1.
Yeah.
Right? And fumbles remain a massive concern. Ball security is a massive concern.
35 fumbles in 35 career games.
Yeah, those are the things that matter. And again, I'm not sitting here I've said all year, the problem is consistency out of both of them.
Yeah.
And I just don't, at this point, again, we'll keep talking, but when we're talking about windows and things, guys, we haven't won a playoff game.
That was Bill's rebuttal.
I mean, yeah, but we're not going to be drafting an offensive tackle this year.
I don't think they are either, Cars. I mentioned that last night.
There's no way we're going to do that. This is a terrible defensive line draft. They're really like, was it Dallas Turner and Jared Verse? They're like nice guys, but none of them are gonna change anything. So the center guys that we really need, those are late second, early third round picks. Like this draft isn't a build the trenches draft. Where this is strong is wide receiver. Whereas this strong is it potentially a quarterback. Like it's no longer just Caleb and Drake May, right? Jaden Daniels has moved up. JJ McCarthy has moved pretty well up. There are other names of folks that are coming up. This isn't a draft to do that. This is a draft to me now. And if you look at it and is like, yeah, Marvin Harrison is out of this world, but Malik Neighbors is really good. Keon Coleman is really good. Brock Bowers is really good. This is a skill position year on offense. Like that's where this is. And so I don't know. Let's dive into it a little bit here, Shane, because I think we want to kind of sit down and talk about some of these things. And this has been the whole years, right? Like which one came first? Who is the problem, chicken or the egg? You know, you look at the left. These are all things that you talk about with Justin. He's still missing throws. There were 2 or 3 in the middle of the field that he absolutely missed that were wide open that he looked at. We've talked about this before, and I'm going to show this again. When you look at this, QBs throwing to the middle of the field, Justin does not leverage it. Now, it's not play design because there are things there. There are plays in the middle. But quarterbacks that struggle with confidence, what is the middle of the field? It is tight windows. It is very small places. You have to be perfect. He's not making those throws. And so that is an issue. Why is Darnell Mooney missing? A lot of his routes are taking him to the middle of the field. That's where he's going. He's not getting the ball there. He still holds on to the ball too long. Timing routes are still a massive issue for him. The ball does not always come out on time. But you look at the other side, right? Luke Getsy, very aggressive defenses, way too many screens. The second half play calling, we've talked all year. No play action, no 12. Anytime he gets off a script, Shane, you've been saying it all year. Off script, Getsy is terrible.
Awful. Yeah.
It's inexcusable. The run game success is not carried over. He takes the ball out of Justin's hands. When he's doing well, he's not helping him. He's not giving him the ball. He's hiding everything that we want to do. We talked about this with Minnesota. Detroit is the same way. You attack them through the air. They are beaten through the air. We don't attack their weaknesses at all. And then the second we get a 1 point or a 3-point lead, we go into ultra conservative, pound the rock football. This isn't the early 2000s anymore. This isn't Baltimore winning in 2000 with Trent Dilfer and Jamal Lewis because they sat down and could pound the rock 40 times. That doesn't happen anymore. And when I say the middle of the field, I'm going to give you 2 examples. This is Justin Fields' passing chart for the season. I know this is a little small, but when you look at all of these, the 2 things that sit out, look at the amount of throws over 10 yards between the hash marks. It's not there at all. There is nothing. Now, what I do see is 3 of his interceptions have basically come middle of the field in those tight window throws. He had 1 against Green Bay. He had 1 against Kansas City. And he had another, I think, against Denver. It might have been, right? Middle of the field interceptions. But he's not attempting these throws at all. Compare that to rookie CJ Stroud. And what do you see? Look at the middle of the field. Look at how that works. Yeah, it's there. And it's happening. And I'm not meaning to call you out, but there are plays in the middle of the field that had play action that he's not even throwing. Chicago Football Connection did a great 6 clips of plays that were good and bad. And in them, he calls out multiple different missed middle of the field throws.
Well, if you look back to the second down, the very last second down play of the game where he was an absolute mess in the pocket, Tyler Scott is literally standing there wide open in the middle of the field and does not get the ball.
And there were 2 others. There's 1 other to Darnell Mooney and another to Cole Kmet in the middle of the field. And so when a quarterback is really struggling, it's because everything is to the outside. Everything goes out. Kirk Cousins, for all of his flaws, is fantastic to the middle of the field. When a guy is uncertain, and if you marry this up with timing routes, right? So things where the ball has to get out on time, it doesn't happen. And Bullets, I'm just going to say the reason for this is because the college game is so much different. Look at all the wide receivers that he was throwing to. They were all wide open. Like,
yeah, they're all
what?
first round picks.
They're all first round picks. He looked better in college, but the issue is that the biggest flags for him in college were, how is he going to do on timing routes? Hasn't improved. And what is he going to look like in a non-Ohio State offense, right? Because that was their idea of timing route, was wait another half a second and see who gets open. It's so vastly different once you move up here. There's a reason that, to me, and I know we talked about this, Shane, to me there are 2 tier 1 quarterbacks in the NFL. It's Patrick Mahomes and it is Joe Burrow, and it is no one else. Now, that doesn't mean that Josh Allen isn't really good. It doesn't mean that Justin Herbert isn't very good. It doesn't mean that Jalen Hurts isn't very good. But there are 2 guys that make it all happen. You look at some of these other guys, and it takes play calling, it takes players, it takes all, Jalen Hurts looks really good because he could throw to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, right? And Dallas Goedert with a line that protects all day. That's different.
Don't have that here.
You don't. And so, when you go back and look at, at college, he looks so good. But that was just wait. That was just, hey, our offensive line is so much better than every offensive line. You could wait 4 or 5 seconds and no one's going to get to you. That's not going to be the way that it is. And so if he does it, when you go back and watch tape and watch film, watch plays and see where guys in the middle of the field are wide open and he's looking at them. It's not even just like it's not in the progression. They're there. And he is not pulling the trigger. That shows in me a complete lack of confidence in either his ability to fit the ball into a tighter window, or that he's not confident in his ability to see a safety or a linebacker. It's that, to me, Shane, when you look at that is why you kind of look at why I think you got to move the ball and move away from him, because if that doesn't improve, and that the fact that it hasn't improved in 3 years, that is the biggest red flag that this guy isn't going to become the guy.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not defending Luke Getsy, but to your point, Cars, if you're standing there and the guy is wide open in the middle of the field, that doesn't become a Luke Getsy problem at that point.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm not defending Luke Getsy, but that's a Justin Fields problem all day long. That's not a Luke Getsy. That's not a Matt Eberflus. That's not a Chicago Bears problem. That's on that part of it's on Justin Fields. But I just highlighted this and wanted to bring it up. Alex Sims says, Shannon Cars, if the Panthers finish with the 3rd pick, you're not taking a quarterback and trade up in any circumstances. No, they're not. Listen, if the Bears don't get the number 1 overall pick, whoever gets the number 1 overall pick is taking Caleb Williams.
And by the way, that 100% means Arizona is drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. 2nd overall. And we need to get comfortable with the fact that sitting at the 3rd pick is the worst position for us, because you're not getting Marvin at all.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, if your highest pick is number 3, you're rolling with Justin until you find another quarterback, unless they're sold on Drake May. I am not there with Drake May.
I would rather roll the dice on Jaden Daniels than I would on Drake May. And it's a roll of the dice. Please don't get me wrong, but I am.
Yeah.
Drake May, his boneheaded plays are ultra bonehead.
That's why I said he's going to be a very. Justin Fields has been a high volume fumbler. Drake May is going to be a high volume interceptor in the NFL. Listen, there's a ton to work there with him. He's got a lot of tools that you can work with.
It's a valid thing, because Sam Darnold was that same guy, right? Fumble and interceptions in the pros. That's one of those things that Kenny Pickett has been a fumble machine because of his little hands, right? some of those things do carry on. And so, yeah, it's a big issue. So
nobody's saying that he's passing on Marvin Harrison, Mr. Mayhem. In that scenario, he'd go number 2 if the Bears were at number 3 overall, is what we said. I mean, if you're drafted number 3 and Marvin Harrison is there, it's pretty fucking simple. You write his name down, you turn the card in.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
So, since I'm already making enemies, Shane, let's go through the case against Justin. So, if you folks remember, Sam Bradford was the last quarterback to be drafted without the rookie wage scale, and because of his contract, the rookie wage scale basically kicked into effect. So 2011, the Cam Newton draft was the first one in which this rookie wage scale took place. During this time, 137 quarterbacks have been drafted. Wow. Rounds 1 through 7. How many of them became the guy after their first 3 years? So meaning I struggled really mightily. I maybe flashed a little bit here and there, but I don't, they never became the guy. The 2 guys who have met that criteria are Geno Smith, a 2nd-round pick, and Kirk Cousins. And 0 guys in the first round. You want to look at percentages? That is a 1.5% chance that a guy becomes the guy in the third, that hasn't. The outlier, you talk about the guys like Blake Bortles, Daniel Jones, and others that, yes, thank you, that had flashes, right? Teams, Bortles had a flash and it didn't look sustainable, and Jacksonville did like a 2-year extension, I feel like, with him. But this is so out of the ordinary that this is why when you sit down and look at it this way, Justin would have to be the first rounder in 13 years, basically, to become a guy in the 4th round. He would be a 1% player. And that doesn't mean that it's not possible, but holy shit, does it show you how rare and impossible that is. You want to talk about Geno Smith, he's the biggest outlier of all time. He was a 2nd-round pick. He started 29 games his first 2 years and then only played 6 over his next 6. This season, he's had a massive comeback to earth year. Not that he isn't solid, but when you looked at what he did last year and that completion percentage and the touchdowns and all of that information, that he went from 30 touchdowns and we're 12 games in and he's only thrown for 12 this year, there's been a massive fallback. Yeah. But his biggest blow up year, and it's when he's good, delivery on time. Kirk Cousins, I even asterisk the hell out of him because Kirk Cousins would have been the starter a lot sooner had the Washington Commanders not drafted RG3 2nd overall.
In the same draft.
Thank you. Yes. So, yeah, it was what held him back was not himself. It was that the team had a 1st-round pick in front of him that they wanted to develop. And so, you look at this, his on-time delivery was a skill. He was very good and remains to me very good in the middle of the field off of play action. These are things that, again, Justin isn't doing. If you look, sorry, Sheree, you'll take the bullet again. Blake Bortles, his great year, everything was to the outside to, what was it? Allen Robinson. What was the other guy? Hurd or?
Allen Hurd.
Allen Hurd, thank you. They were a vertical on the outside team, and it worked. Teams compensated the next year, and he was terrible again. You look at Tannehill's like big year in Tennessee with play action, and he had, you know, that one year when they picked him up from the Dolphins and they made that deep playoff run. It went away the next year. If you do not use the middle of the field as a quarterback in the NFL, your ceiling is done. It's what's killing Zach Wilson. It's what killed all of these young quarterbacks over and over again. And it's a 1% chance that Justin Fields will become the guy in year 4. That's Shane. That to me is my only rebuttal to like, what's the worst case? Because the best case scenario is a 1 in 100 chance that Justin takes the step next year.
Right. No, it's a great point, man. I hear you. And do you get a read on Ryan Poles, on Kevin Warren, on any of this, Cars? Because I go back to Kevin Warren being down in there, and I said maybe I'm looking into it too much, but I know if I'm getting ready to fire a guy in a handful of weeks, I can be down there in the locker room, because I'm definitely going to be down in there.
Yeah.
When the game is over, and I'm going to be watching to see how guys are interacting. I'm not going to be up there in the front nodding my head in agreement to everything that the head coach is saying if I'm going to launch him into the sun in a handful of weeks, unless it's all a publicity thing for Kevin Warren. And then I see the big bro hug, Ryan Poles coming in and the big bro hug with
Justin.
Yeah. It's so hard to get a valid read on these guys.
In about 3 years, whenever we find out exactly what happened with Alan Williams, and kind of some of the inside things that have happened, I think it may shine a little bit of a light onto why everyone is so tight and together, because that, whatever it is a horribly messed up situation, right? Like,
yeah,
that we still don't know, and nobody knows, and no one's talking. Normally head coaches don't overcome that and have the type of losses that they have. I think it's important to celebrate the victories that you have, as rare as they've been, because we don't, what are we, 4 and or 7 and fuck, I don't even want to say the number over the last couple of years. It's depressing. I can't get a read on it, but I think you want to continue to build everybody up in hopes that someone can become the guy. But like Shane, for 5 games that remain, you have to see 1,500 plus yards passing, or 1,200 plus yards passing. You got to see 10 touchdowns through the air. You've got to see the middle of the field. You've got to see all this stuff happen.
That's not a massive ask with this schedule, other than Cleveland.
I mean, you've got a relatively defensively easy schedule coming up, right? Like, who scares you in any of that? Yeah, the Browns, but you're going to tell me like the Lions, the Cardinals, the Falcons have a decent enough defense, and the Packers, who really don't. Yeah, like I'm talking about roughly 220 yards a game and 2 touchdowns. Those are nothing numbers that you want to see.
And those are massive numbers in Chicago, though. That's goes back to our original point of praising somebody so much for completing a 3rd down pass to a wide open wide receiver. You know what I mean? The bar is so low in Chicago.
And I think that factors into everything. Like, I love Justin. His jersey was the first autographed one I added when I redid my man cave. Had to have it because I love the kid. But at this point, you're hoping against hope. Like, you are, as much as we want to sit down and be like, hey, I love this kid. I want him to be good, and I see all these different plays. You're still talking about a guy who in, 33 games has 33 starts, 35 games in total, has 27 touchdowns, or 36 touchdowns, 27 interceptions, has 35 fumbles. This is his best year. He's averaging 198 yards a game, right? Like all of these things, these are not. This is a Daniel Jones year to date. Like, yeah, the big games were great. We're 8 games in, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
There's not enough there. And yes, Getsy is part of the problem again, but you just look at it and you just kind of go, there's the chances of this becoming a thing are as much as me becoming a member of the front office, right? It's as much of any of us becoming the head coach. That's how rare it is. And Bullets, I'm going to throw you up here, and then we'll move on past it. I understand what you're saying, but all I'm saying is we've seen this story countless times in the NFL, countless times where this guy just needs a different offensive coordinator who's going to understand him, and they might get a mini bump. But look, like what's happened with Josh Allen this year? Where has he regressed massively in turnovers and interceptions and ball protection, all of those things?
Right. And to my point that I made earlier, as inept as Luke Getsy has been, there's evidence on tape where he's just not pulling the trigger. Yeah. When he's got a sound pocket, when he's literally staring at a guy.
Yeah.
That's not a Luke Getsy issue.
And again, that's why this is a lost season. There are Luke Getsy issues that are prevalent. But if I allow myself to get depressed enough, right, it becomes the chicken and the egg. Are we throwing so many screens because Justin won't throw to the middle of the field, right? Are we doing this to overcompensate here? What are we doing? Like, and we will never know. We will never know the truth of the matter. But it was a debate for a while with Nagy and Mitch, right? Oh, I think Nagy's holding Mitch back. No, they both sucked, right? That was the end state. I think we're still kind of there. I love the kid. I love his heart. I love how the team adores him. He is a tremendous leader. It is one of the most natural leaders you will find at that position. We all saw it when he transferred over from Georgia to Ohio State, instantly won over the locker room. He's won the locker room over here. He looks to be coachable, but there is something that he is, lack of a better term, afraid of, right? He's afraid of the middle of the field, and that is going to ultimately destroy his ceiling in the NFL.
Yeah, and Vince, the way that this works is it goes by strength of schedule. Yeah. So if the Carolina Panthers have a harder schedule or an easier schedule, you want them to have an easy strength of schedule with less wins. That would be exactly what you want.
And just so everybody knows, for right now, Carolina's strength of their average schedule is 51%. It's 56% for Arizona, and it's 54% for New England. So in the event of a tie, as it sits right now, they have the easier schedule. So yes, that would make a big difference for them.
Yeah.
Carolina does not have an easy schedule because they face the hardest defenses of everybody left. They face Tampa twice. They face Atlanta, which is probably a winnable game. But they have a pretty easy, Carolina is a really tough defensive schedule, which does not match up well with their offense.
Right. And they just put Chenault on IR today. Also.
Yeah. And I mean, they don't, there's not a lot of hope there, and you get the sense that the
You're
whole
not a
locker
big
room is
believer in Chris Tabor cars?
no, and when you see, like, the Tepper situation, which I think is, gonna be stories will be written about how bad this situation is, but, like, when you're getting rid of McCown and you're getting rid of Deuce Staley, 2 guys that are really well respected for no real reason other than Jim Caldwell, like, it is a mess, and I just don't it feels to me like that team has given up on the season. Like, it feels like when Detroit went 0-16 and you could tell at one point they're like, "We've tried. It's just not our year." It feels like we're there with Carolina.
Yeah, and it's somebody talked to a former Carolina Panther player, and he had been talking to some current Carolina Panthers, and they were like, what is going on? Questioning ownership. And when that happens, that's ball game. We've lived it.
We've seen it multiple times, right? Like, teams that when they get bad and they think that they can win, they fight, but when they get their teeth kicked in time and time again, all of a sudden you just see that give up, right? You just see that moment, and you would imagine that when Carolina, who did they beat? When Carolina beat the Texans, like, they were hoping that to be a launching point, but they ever since they scored 20 against the Dolphins, I don't think they've passed 15 points in a game on offense since. Like, those type of numbers you don't win at all on. So,
what do you got next?
All right. So, let's talk about the draft a little bit since we're already here. I think it's a little bit crazy. I think I have QB as a question mark here, but I think we agree on the needs: center, edge. I listed offensive skill positions because I think you could look at wide receiver. Brock Bowers as a tight end is a guy that makes sense. Shane and I have mentioned and seems to agree, right? They're not going to be looking for an Olu or an Alt. I think they've settled in on Braxton Jones being the guy, and they're going to look at other places, but they still need a swing tackle because Borup is terrible, and they'll need some depth at defensive tackle. Some things you want to look at. Once this draft really gets past the top 5, it really, to me, Shane, and I don't know how you feel, falls off massively. Yeah. Like, you get past Caleb. To me, once you get past Caleb, Marvin, I'm starting to move Malik Neighbors up into that range. And then you get past Olu and Alt, basically, for me.
And Bowers.
This falls off massively. And what's hard for us is when you look at it, the draft is very weak on the edge. I just don't see it. Like, I know that the kid Dallas from Alabama is now probably the favorite, but he's still, to me, he's a motor guy. He's an energy guy. He's not like a refined person. Wide receiver group is killer. I mean, you get past Neighbors, you're still talking about guys like Keon Coleman. So this is a very deep skill position group that you watch. I know we're all going to be looking at center. To me, centers are probably going to be late 2, early 3 round. I think you're looking at, I blank on the name, the kid from Georgia, in that kind of range.
Right. And that there's some guys in UFA.
Yes, Connor Williams also, as well. Yep. So there's others. And then again, you get really a sense that Braxton Jones has really locked himself in here. And so, I think, Shane, any disagreements? Yeah, thank you, Van Pran. Any disagreements with this list at all? Anywhere else that you would add?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's pretty, honestly, it's pretty obvious. I I don't think it's very hard for them to. And listen, people need to realize, they hear Lance Briggs go on and talk with Cap, and they're, banging the drum for them to draft a 3-tech. There's no 3-tech that they're drafting up top in this draft, and you're seeing the growth from the guy that they drafted in
massive growth.
Yeah, and you can go out and, I mean, they may attack edge in free agency cards. There may be massive names there. I know those guys usually don't hit UFA, but it's exactly, why they did that with Sweat. You get another legitimate horse on the other side of Montez Sweat with Pickens. You're starting to cook with gas.
I mean, Chase Young is a name that could still end up a Bear because there's no way San Francisco is going to be able to afford him, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really crazy, but I think you're completely right. Like, I think Hunter is a free agent there. There's a couple of other names.
Allen down in Jacksonville.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some big names there. So when you look at kind of just to peel back, and I think this is really, looking back, Shane, I don't know about you, but it's really looking more and more like last year's draft overall was a massive home run.
Yeah.
Does it mean that Darnell Wright hasn't had his flaws, but I'm super comfortable with his development and the way that he's coming and how he's pancaking guys and finishing blocks. And you could see that this is the floor for him, right? If this is the worst that he's ever going to be, holy shit, is he going to be an absolute monster. Dexter, there were several plays last week. He's our best interior pass rusher right now. He's figured out the arm swipe, everything. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's moving the meter cars. I pointed this out on Keeping It 100. Kyle Long was live tweeting about Gervon Dexter.
Yeah.
And this former players in the NFL, when they're doing that, they're seeing something. Chris Long brought his name up, and
yes, he did
on his podcast talking about it. And this guy is younger than Jalen Carter. He just started playing organized football 5 years ago. Let that part sink in. 5 years ago, and he played 3 years in Florida. So 4 out of those 5 years, guys, were playing in the SEC in Florida and then for the Chicago Bears. He just started playing football 5 years ago. So he's not even scratching the surface yet of where he can go. And who's been the biggest critic on this network of Dexter? Phil. By leaps and bounds, Phil's been praising him. The way he's shown flashes all the time, but they throttled him back a little bit, and this is the growth that you see. This is the step that's being made. And as much as people don't want to hear this is a credit to the head coach.
Yes, it is.
You can't say that it's not. Every one of those guys up on that screen are rookies. That's a credit to Matt Eberflus. You can't sit here and just say that it's not. It is.
And Dexter Wright playing in Florida, he was a read then react, and he's had to switch to react. And you see those things. His get off is getting much better, right? But his pass rush moves, like he stole Unique's pass rush move really quickly, and he's really made it smooth in a short period of time. That's pretty scary. You look at, Tyreek Stevenson started off really physical, a lot of penalties, just has played really well.
And that's the thing, Cars, with a corner, you want them to be grabby and physical.
Yes.
It's better that than
Gordon
the other
was that
way.
Yeah, Gordon was that way last year as well.
Right.
Absolutely. You want to, because if they aren't doing that, they're afraid, right? They're playing scared. You want to play physical. So you look at last year, like Terrell Smith has been really good. You go back a year again, Kyler Gordon is something, right? Like he is something. I don't know what fully to make of him, but in a good way, right? Like he is
Right.
just all over the field. Brisker, when he is good, God, is he good. When he is bad, holy shit, is he bad, right? Like there is very little in between. I want to see more, but you could see why he was there. Braxton, look, I know it's PFF and it's a mess, but there's a reason PFF has him as the 6th highest rated pass blocking tackle in the NFL this season.
Well, I don't even think it's even PFF. I think Ryan Poles 100% believes in Braxton Jones. End of story.
His play, right? His anchor is not perfect, but it's better. His footwork, his speed, all of it is really, really good. And so when people start saying like, hey, I love Olu. I wanted Olu last year, but you know what? Olu is a really good pass blocking tackle. He's not a great run blocker. It's that is very similar into Braxton. If you wanted to go both sides, it's Alt all day, right? Alt would be the guy that is a better run blocker and better complete package. But I don't think either of them move the needle enough. You know, like when you start looking at these positions now, again, if you're sitting there, and again, let's use it, Shane. It's your third pick overall. Trade down, not an option. And the first pick is Caleb. Second pick is Marvin Williams. At third, you are looking at Harrison. Sorry,
we don't want to draft
Caleb,
Marvin Williams. He was horrible out of North Carolina,
like most of those kids. Sorry, but you're looking at Malik Neighbors at third overall. You're looking at Bowers at third overall. You're not looking at a tackle. You're looking at a skill position player, because once we get past DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney's not going to be back. You're going to need another player. That is going to shift the scales so much more. A upgrade over Braxton Jones or an upgrade over Equanimous St. Brown. Which one do you think is going to make a bigger statement, right? And would you agree, or would you think it would look differently?
Oh, no, I totally agree. Absolutely. Yeah, no, dude, you're not wrong.
And it's crazy, but that's the way you have to view it. You like when it comes to best player available, you have to look at how much better that player is over the second string person. We go into next year, even Equanimous, he said the receiver. I think it's Tyler Scott and Velus Jones are your 2 and 3 as it sits right away.
You have a question here, Cars, from Zero. I'm not so. Or to me also, after showing the past 2 drafts and how the young guys are performing, would it hurt if Warren decided to not only get rid of Flus, but also Poles? Well, I'm not there. Like Phil is all in on clean the deck, throw out Flus, fire Poles. I'm not there with Poles yet. Has he made mistakes? 100%. I think all GMs do. I get it. But at the same time, if Kevin Warren wanted to put his footprint on this team, would I be completely shocked? I think I'd be surprised, but if I was Kevin Warren, that's what I would want my guys 100%.
It would hurt though, because
I get it. Yeah, it'd be
his what he's done, and we can talk all day if we want to about Chase, right? We could talk all we want about those mistakes, but what he's done in the draft and building capital and making the top picks hit, not just sort of hit, but hit. When you look at the Montez Sweat deal that everybody just was outside of Bears fans were like, I can't believe they did that. Dude's been playing incredible. You know, Jalen Carter is a great player, but again, if you're telling me that the choice is Jalen Carter and Tyler Steen or Darnell Wright and Javon Dexter Jr., you go Wright and Dexter 10 out of 10 times because you need the offensive line to go. It would hurt because we have seen how hard it is to find good talent evaluators when it comes to the draft. And the way I always say it is, how many head coaches has Howie Roseman, who's everybody's favorite general manager, gone through? Like, how bad have some of them looked? Look at the
Howie Roseman has had some epic failures in the draft. I don't know if this is
Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Dude, does anybody remember the name Marcus Smith? That was a first round. That was a first round pick for Howie Roseman.
Totally forgotten about that guy.
Yeah, and I mean, but it's not an exact science. These guys are going to have, and I don't give two shits about Roquan Smith, and people can put up any friggin' logo or graphic that they want to. I still make that trade.
Oh, TJ Edwards, not without his flaws, but he's giving you similar production with just more ball play right now, right? Like you've got what, 2 interceptions and a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
it's why you make those moves. It doesn't mean that Roquan's not a great player, but he's also in a scheme where he just has to clean up now, right? He's in what people always get mad when you say this. Ray Lewis was a great player, but most of the time, what was he doing? Cleaning stuff up because all the front line handled everything.
I would put Ryan Pohl's chance of getting fired at less than 3%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the percentages that we're talking about. I don't think happening.
I could see, my take is going to be that I would think that I would see Warren inject a few people that he wants into the structure, right?
Sure.
Like, who's the guy in Pittsburgh that I'm blanking on right now? Khan, right?
Omar Khan.
Like someone at that level that sits in between and maybe is another voice to bounce things off of. And it's another level because again, from a structure of,
I would have zero issue with them making Ian Cunningham that guy.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I'd give him more power in the organization.
Absolutely. But I think that's more the move right now because I really, it is so hard to find guys that can draft well. And we've done it 2 drafts in a row. I mean, like we talked for years about that draft where we got Cohen and Eddie Jackson and a few other players that turned out to be pretty nice. We did that 2 years in a row with drafts that have been, to me, better than that draft. Yeah. While adding capital, while picking up a DJ Moore, right? Like those moves matter tremendously. My fear, though, is exactly what Alex H said, which is Flu stays because the defense is improved.
I could 100% see it. 100% could see it.
Yeah, and to answer this question, yeah, Slick, I really do. I'll show you right now the way that I think the draft if it were to happen today, would happen. But right now, yeah, absolutely. I have the Bears. The way everything looks right now, I have the Bears drafting Caleb Williams #1 overall. And I just think they'll look at this and they'll say, hey, we've got a good offensive line. We'll draft him overall. I could see us very easily moving back out of this top 4 place, with someone that may want to move up a little bit. But yeah, I think the odds are really against us right now getting Marvin. I really feel like that's just not a likely thing whatsoever.
I don't even know. Well, we don't need to get into that. I was just wondering on Kyler's contract. Is there a
He's
is there
greater than a year out.
yeah.
It's because I know I'm trying to remember because I did this when I looked at Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, you can get out of after next year.
Right, but on Kyler, there's not even a post June 1st trade scenario where it would be digestible. Because I mean, you see, and you'd have to know their cap room too, because the Philly, they ate like 40. They took like a $40 million haircut when they moved off Wentz. In that
deal. So sorry, I'm looking at it right now. The problem is that this is his cheap year, right? So this is Kyler's cheap year at $16 million. Next year, the dead cap money for him is $81 million. And next year's when his salary he goes from $16 million this year to almost $52 million next.
And that's even with the post June 1st.
Yes.
Designation. Yeah,
it's after next year that he becomes because even straight up next year, his cap the year afterwards, his cap hit is $45 million and his dead cap number is $33 million. So it really moves everything along. So that's the one. They're in no man's land, and I really think that. Again, I think that's why they're going to look to build around Kyler and just say, we'll give him one more shot and see if he could become the guy. And we'll see. But that's Kyler Murray is why, and Daniel Jones are why you don't pay these guys more than they're earned, right? And you got to take a lot of these guys and these players as who they are on the field is exactly who they are. Yeah, they could be, it could be a superstar. It could be, but they're not. And so I think that's really what they have to look at.
It's good stuff, man.
So that's everything.
We just got to kick them in the nuts for the past 90 minutes, Cars. Welcome to the world of being a Bears fan.
Yeah, this is why everybody hates me. I mean, it's really tough, but I think the way Shane, and I don't know how you feel, but it just really feels like they've got to pull the ripcord on this and start something new.
Yeah, I can definitely see it happening, Cars, but at the same time, too, it's just you have to explore what a compensation package would look like, because I mean, you got a pretty amazing haul last year for number one. It's going to pale in comparison to what you're going to be able to get this year.
So yeah, to a degree, absolutely. But what's the piece that's going to move the needle, right? Like, so it was DJ Moore for Carolina, right? Arizona has zero of interest to me. New England really doesn't have anything of interest to me. The New York Giants.
Oh, it would be based 90% off of picks, and then you would take a guy. I mean, what's your? Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Bill,
participating in there. But if you throw there you go. You threw another one up there for you, Cars. Get some pizzas for the kids. Thanks.
The kids need pizza. That's for sure. Is what we sit down. Oh yes, Maisie's dad keys. She has been drinking from my face every day this week, so she is enjoying her internet celebrity.
But if you throw this, so the Jets, Tampa, the Giants, Washington, New England, Arizona,
Tennessee is the one that I could see being the one
Yeah.
to throw the most
So
because I think
you take a ton of picks, and then you're demanding Jeffrey Simmons back.
absolutely.
But
they're the only team that has
Yeah.
anybody or anything that I'd be interested. Tampa Bay's roster's old. All these Tennessee, if they didn't have Simmons, that's a shit roster. Like there is, when you look at that top 10 list,
Mhm.
where is the talent? Like, okay, Washington, who I think is going to roll the dice with Howell anyway, but like McLaurin is probably the only one of really any value there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking at like New England, depending on what you did with Jalen Johnson, you'd be demanding back a guy like Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah. But I mean, it is such a it's a bad year.
You may see Tennessee in a full-blown rebuild.
I think they have to.
I think they're losing their head coach.
But I think he needs to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know where he's going.
He's going back to New England. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to run away from that as quick as he can. There's just no. You're gonna if we get the picks.
Doesn't fit the. He's older and always injured. Yeah,
he was just as good as Eddie Jackson when he was healthy, and the worst asterisk of all time is always when healthy. I hate that one.
Yeah,
but I mean, Lord,
Barrymore is a guy that I'm very familiar with, but he's a dude. I mean, he's got some moments, but he's not moving the meter for you in terms of, oh, we gotta have this guy in. I mean, I can go out and sign a guy in free agency that I feel like could be Barrymore.
Yeah, and completely. And I think this is the last one we'll go, but I think Corin is right. If we end up with 2 of the top 5, I do think we're going to move back on one of them. But I truly think when you look at this draft and how it plays, it would be the second of the picks and not the others. That's it.
I was just reading some of the. How do they do a full-blown rebuild and trade away all their picks? I guess what I meant to say that is they're going to be reshaped. I think Vrabel is going to be on the move, and there could be a trade compensation package coming their way, and it all depends on how they feel. Listen, they've invested in the quarterback, the last 2 years, but neither one of them are the guy.
I mean, Will Levis has looked interesting, but you never trust a guy who puts mayo in coffee. But
or eats a banana with the peel on it.
Yeah, but like their offensive line is a bad situation, and that's the other part. When you look at that list again, Shane, none of these. We have the best offensive line of everybody in that top 10.
Yeah.
That's the thing of when you look at that, like there's not to me a worse situation to be in than to have like the New York Giants end up with the number 1 pick. They have no wide receivers. They have no offensive line. Caleb Williams would die.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
So it's going to be interesting, but again, I think right now if I look at it, it's going
to be an interesting offseason. All right, Cars, before we let everybody go, I'm going to put you on the firing line. Percentage. Matt Eberflus, head coach, Chicago Bears, 2024.
Don't ask me this question.
Not what Cars wants, but what you truly feel is going to happen.
I don't think there's any way he's going to be back. I would put him at less than. I won't do like what you did. I'll say a less than 10% chance that he's back. And
right,
yeah.
So the coaching staff is gone. They're starting over at quarterback. And Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren move forward.
Correct.
And I know you're big on the Jim Harbaugh train, so I guess we can end the show now.
Slowick from the Texans. Slowick from the Texans. Fuck Jim Harbaugh and everything Michigan related.
I can see Ryan Cox smiling all the way down there in North Carolina. All right. Thank you guys. We appreciate you. I hope everybody enjoys their bye week. There was a time when I used to almost feel sick to my stomach. I'm like, fuck, I hate bye weeks. And I think we all can enjoy this one a little bit. I was listening to Tommy Waddle talk. He's like, I've been a Bear for a long, long time, but I got to say one thing, and please don't get mad at me. Covering and following this team is nauseating. I love it. I'm not going to miss it, but when you're doing it the way that we do it, it can get a little bit overwhelming at times because, Cars, you know how we are. We're bouncing 45 different scenarios, in our text thread
constantly
over a 3-hour window. It's crazy. And that might go until 1:00 in the morning where we're still talking about scenarios. And what if they did this? And then, oh my God, they're bringing this dude back, aren't they? So
I'm looking forward to this weekend because my girls have a dance competition this weekend. And I was like, oh my God, the first one, and there's no Bears game that I have to worry about missing. Yeah. It worked out really well, but I'm with Waddle. I am depressed. Like, it is depressing. And there are times in the text message chain where I don't know if you feel the same, where you're like, I just don't feel good. Like, this doesn't make me feel happy.
Yeah. Sometimes, you read it and you're like, oh, I'm just going to sit this one out for an hour or two.
God, I'm going to go run into a brick wall for a while. That'll be
so
painful.
Many things going through your head. And no matter what happens with the coaching staff, no matter what happens with the quarterback, with the GM, we're not going anywhere. We're still going to be following every single move that they make. We're still going to get excited about this team, even though they may beat us down. But we thought last year's offseason was critical and a roller coaster ride. It's not even going to compare to what we're in store for this year.
It's going to be nuts. Like, it's going to make this last one look tame, I think, to your point.
Totally agree. Happy birthday, Grandma. I'm not even going to make a ridiculous joke. I hope she enjoys her birthday.
Wow. This is a big moment. I want someone to mark down.
I'm showing restraint. Well, I got a little animated last night on Keeping It 100.
No.
When we had a little troll in the comments come in, so I had to invite a guy on the show, and then he chickened out. So
shocker.
It was fun.
Total
it was fun.
Shocker.
All right, we are out of here, guys. We love
everybody.
you. Cherie, you can put that Blake Bortles fat head away for the night. Show's over. We're going to get out of here. See you guys next week. Cars Keys, episode 32 next week. The Cedric Benson Show. Who knows?
Does that mean I have to be in tears the whole time? Because that could probably happen.
Rest in peace, Ced. We still love you. All right, we're out.